Assalamualaikum. Now look at the three graphs here. You can see they are about the same, but the difference is what you can see on the y-axis here. The first graph is displacement versus time. Okay, this one is displacement versus time. This one is velocity versus time, and this is acceleration versus time. I'm going to look at gradient and area under the graph for each of the graph here. Because for gradient, okay, let us try to calculate the gradient for the first graph here. You can see this is 4 minus 0 over 2 minus 0, and the unit is meter per second. So we have 2 meter per second. So from here you can see the unit is meter per second. This is the unit for velocity. So from here we understand that the gradient for ST graph is velocity. Okay, this is what you need to know. And for the area under the graph, okay, here, that's right, area under the graph here. So it is half 4 meter multiplied by 2 seconds. So you get here 4 meters second. Look at the unit here. Meter second doesn't have any quantity, useful quantity for us. So for this graph, you don't have to find area under the graph because it does not represent any useful quantity. Now for the next graph, velocity time, we do the same thing here, and the only difference is the unit. So you get here 2 meter per second squared. Okay, because the value here is the same, so you should get the same number here too, but the difference is meter per second squared. It comes from meter per second squared. Okay, so this is actually the unit for acceleration. So let us write here acceleration. From here we understand that the gradient for VT graph is the acceleration. And what about the area under the graph? It should be half meter, 4 here, meter per second, multiplied by 2 seconds. You can cancel out second, so you have 4 meter. So this is the unit for displacement. So from here we understand that the area under the graph for velocity versus time is displacement. You do the same thing for area, for acceleration versus time. So let's try it again here. 4 over 2, and the unit is meter per second squared over squared. So you should get 2 meter per second cube. So look at the unit here. So it does not represent any quantity, so you don't have to find out gradient for acceleration versus time because it does not represent any useful quantity for us. And the area under the graph, okay, area under the graph for AT graph, it is half meter per 4 meter per second squared multiplied by 2 seconds. So you can cancel this one. So you get here 4 meter per second. So this is the unit for velocity v. So that is how we recognize what are the quantity represented by gradient and area under the graph for each of the graph here. So we can make a conclusion like this. The gradient for ST graph is velocity. The gradient for VT graph is acceleration. AT graph, we need to find it out. For ST graph, area under the graph does not represent anything. For VT graph, area under the graph is displacement, and area under the graph for AT graph is velocity. So this is the summary for what we have learned just now. So I think you should copy this in your note so that you will be able to apply it in your examination.